The calm before the storm, early March 2025. By early March 2025, the front lines in eastern Ukraine had reached a tense equilibrium. Both sides were exhausted, yet Ukraine's forces quietly began repositioning, preparing for a major strategic push. Signs of weakness in Russian positions. Intelligence reports hinted at cracks in Russian defenses. Morale was dropping. Supply lines were overstretched. Ukraine identified key points to exploit. The first push, mid-March 2025. On March 15th, Ukrainian forces launched a limited offensive near Holivka, testing Russian reactions. Russian countermeasures. Russia responded with artillery barrages, attempting to stabilize their positions. However, the offensive revealed critical vulnerabilities. Exploiting the breach. Ukraine capitalized on these gaps, pushing forward in several sectors, gradually encircling Russian units. Encirclement intensifies, late March 2025. By late March, Ukrainian forces had successfully encircled multiple Russian units near Holivka. Russian commanders struggled to coordinate reinforcements, while morale among frontline troops continued to deteriorate. Supply lines collapse. Russian supply lines were under constant artillery and drone strikes. Shortages of ammunition and food became critical, forcing some units to retreat or surrender. Ukrainian tactical innovations. Ukraine deployed small, highly mobile units to exploit gaps in Russian lines. Using local intelligence, they avoided heavily defended positions and targeted weak points, gaining significant territorial advantage. Morale crisis in Russian ranks. Russian frontline troops, isolated and under constant pressure, experienced a severe drop in morale. Reports of refusal to fight and desertions began to surface. Ukraine gains momentum, early April 2025. Entering April, Ukrainian forces seized key crossroads and villages, consolidating gains from the March offensives. Russian units struggled to reorganize, signaling a potential strategic collapse in the region. Pressure mounts on Russian command, mid-April 2025. By mid-April, Russian command struggled to coordinate scattered units. Ukrainian advances threatened supply hubs, forcing Russian officers to make hasty decisions with limited information. Encirclement expands. Ukrainian units expanded encirclements to the south, cutting off Russian retreat paths and isolating key positions. Civilian impact and intelligence. Local populations reported Russian supply shortages and troop withdrawals. Ukrainian intelligence used these reports to refine operational plans, targeting weakened areas. Ukrainian artillery precision. Precision artillery strikes disrupted Russian reinforcements, further destabilizing front lines. Russian retreats accelerate. By April 20th, Russian units began accelerated retreats, abandoning positions under pressure from multiple Ukrainian advances. Urban combat near Sloviansk. Fighting intensified in urban areas, with Ukrainian forces moving street by street to dislodge Russian units. Russian logistics breakdown. Logistical failures became apparent as convoys were destroyed and resupply became sporadic, crippling frontline Russian units. Strategic villages taken. Ukraine captured key villages that controlled regional road networks, strengthening their operational reach. Russian morale collapses. By late April, reports indicated a complete collapse in morale among some Russian units, with refusals to fight and mass desertions. Ukrainian momentum continues. Ukraine exploited the disarray, pushing further into contested zones and consolidating control over newly captured areas. Civilian strain and refugee flow. The conflict intensified civilian suffering, with thousands fleeing conflict zones and creating humanitarian challenges. Ukrainian operational adaptability. Ukraine's adaptive strategies allowed for rapid exploitation of Russian weaknesses, focusing on flanking maneuvers and supply line disruption. Russian tactical missteps. Several Russian counterattacks failed due to poor coordination and inadequate reconnaissance. Key crossroads secured. Ukrainian forces captured vital crossroads, enhancing mobility and limiting Russian tactical options. Encirclement complete. By mid-May, Ukrainian encirclements effectively trapped Russian units, cutting off reinforcements and supplies. Russian withdrawals intensify. Isolated and low on supplies, Russian units began accelerated withdrawals, abandoning strategic positions. Ukrainian consolidation. Ukraine consolidated gains, fortifying captured positions and preparing for potential counterattacks. Strategic advantage achieved. By late May, Ukraine held a strategic advantage, controlling key supply routes and communication lines in contested areas. Outlook and future operations, June 2025. As June approached, Ukrainian forces prepared for the next phase of operations. Russian units faced a prolonged period of reorganization and morale recovery, signaling a possible turning point in the Eastern Front.